of the Epic Card Game World Championship for 2017. I'm Nathan Davis, one of the assistant designers and developers on Epic Pantheon, and joining me is the man, the myth, the legend, the icon, the showstopper, the headliner, and the main event, CJ Moynihan. All right, maybe not all of those, but enough. We are coming up to round 5. We've got Connor Daly and James Moreland. James is back from last year. I don't actually remember if Connor played last year. And they both have decks that are remarkably different than what you saw in, oh my god, look at those sleeves. That's grand. Connor and James have a lot of evil going on. We're going to see many cards potentially from the new Pantheon set. Both of these players, a win here, especially if James wins, he can almost certainly ID into top 8. Connor probably can ID into top 8 if he wins, although it's not certain. So we got the mulligans. So when you look at their list, when you look at Connor's list, what jumps out at you?
Well, I mean, so this is, a very different list than what we've seen in the previous matches because it looks like it's a majority evil, probably something around 40 evil, with a little bit of sage and just like the tiniest drop of wilds.
Yep.
And
for that surprise attack.
Right. And if I was going to describe the strategy here, I'd say it looks something like a slower control deck that's all about having like anything, just something on the board, and then playing the really long game.
Mm-hmm.
Like the control. I'm going to get more value than you are out of all of my plays, and then eventually I'm going to win.
So both players, as it happens, are running nearly identical decks. You see both of them start with a turn 1 hasty retreat to draw cards. James has upgraded into starting with the Scar's Gift. Can we look at Scar's Gift? So this card is one of the most important cards in Pantheon, I feel. CJ, talk people through this card and what makes it unique among cards in Epic.
So Scar's Gift is a little bit different because it can go back to your hand when you play a card that costs gold. So it's sort of like, Cave Troll, Sonic Assault, Inner Peace, cards like that, in that you can keep using it, except that because it's an event, you can play the event and then immediately follow it up with your 1-cost card and put it back into your hand. So for the control decks that are looking to go super long game, they can just keep reusing this card by kind of grinding out matches against decks that are also slow but not quite fast enough.
Right.
Like inevitably they will be able to chip away at the health if for some reason they have a hard time getting in on the ground, or if their opponent is making their lives difficult.
We have a very weird board state taking place here. So James has just passed twice, discarding because he's had too many cards in his hand. In response to the first one, Connor played Heinous Feast. Nothing. So neither player is playing anything. They're very cautious. They both know that they're in for a long day at work.
Yeah, and if you're playing the kind of deck that has a lot of actions, a lot of ways to react to what your opponent is doing, then you got to be very careful about who makes the first step, because you don't ever want to make a play that is basically too aggressive if you're not the deck that's going to be able to capitalize on that. Because if one player plays something, like let's just say that Connor decided to drop the Angel of Death instead of holding on to it, it gets answered by James's, like with a Medusa or something like that, and then it just ends badly for Connor because he can't, he's behind, and then he has to react to James's answers a step behind.
Let's talk about what he just did there. The Scar's Gift to, again, deal damage, and then he immediately follows it up with the Gudgeon. and now he's discarding. No, he's heinous feasting. But the thing about playing the Gudgeon is he is maintaining Scar's Gift in his hand, which means there's nothing in Epic that lets you get it. There's no targeted discard in Epic, as opposed to sweeping the discard pile or targeting, banishing cards out of your opponent's discard pile.
Right.
So he's protecting the gift, and he's only playing it when he can reliably get it back, which means he has to have 2 other cards in the discard pile first. And the Gudgeon is a great way to start getting in there because it lets you to draw more cards. But now we're seeing the other side of the deck.
Right, and the big, I guess what Nathan is getting at is that James doesn't want to end his turn or attack with the Scar's Gift in his discard pile, so he's only ever playing his card when Scar's Gift when he immediately has another card to follow it up with. And the Gudgeon's also really nice in the mirror match between these two decks, because if you have the Gudgeon out, you actually can't be gifted by your opponent. So
It's true.
Basically, that's a good way to play around your opponent. If they can't use it on you, then you can let their discard pile build up some more and then banish a lot of it at once.
So Connor has, and thank you, Connor, when you watch this later, for keeping your revealed cards revealed. Gentlemen rules are the best rules. Here comes, what is
Guild
that?
Demon.
That's Guild Demon.
So this is an interesting choice. I mean, basically, I think James is going to have to find a way to deal with this board. It's a little awkward because they have Dark One's Fury in their deck, right? And Dark One's Fury is a new card which breaks all non-evil champions, but it's not a great way to answer anything that's evil, which is most of the kind of things that both these decks are going to be putting out.
So here we see Angel of Death.
Surprise attacked.
Yep, surprise. Angel of Death, still good after all these years.
Yeah, it's nice when you see a play that could be made in the base game still being made, 3 expansions later.
Yep. So, you've been playing strategy card games for a while at a moderately high level, and this actually brings me directly to the point I'm trying to make. How do you crack open a mirror? So, in Epic, we do not have sideboards. You're not going to be able to rely on outguessing your opponent and the sideboard step. I'm not Irish yet. It's not a sideboard. And to my friends in Ireland who are watching, hi. I miss you guys. See you in a couple of days. How would you go into this match knowing, and I believe they both know that they're on nearly identical or actually identical decks, how would you approach this? And how would you advise people that are in a similar situation to approach this when they play?
Well, so the mirror is generally always going to be about edge play, and the interesting thing about mirrors is they tend to... it depends on what the mirror is, because just because you're in a mirror doesn't mean you necessarily change your strategy.
Right.
Right. If it's
aggro beatdown,
yeah.
You're just beating.
Right. I mean, there's things you can do, but at the end of the day, if both of you are playing a deck that's as many cards that are similar to Flame Strike as possible, then you're really not going to be changing up your strategy very much. But if like in a game like this where you're going very long, then it's all about accumulating tiny advantages and just trying to accumulate as many tiny advantages as possible and taking those away from your opponents. So here we have Rift Summoner, right? The main advantage to Rift Summoner is that you can pull it out on an empty board. So if I had a Rift Summoner, I'd ideally be holding it back until the moment where my opponent clears the board. Because what I want to do is get ahead with a Xanos or something like that, force my opponent to clear the board, and then basically respond to that with a Rift Summoner, because Rift Summoner is one of those cards that can generate a wrathable, clearable board by itself. It's just enough of a card that you can't answer it with a single answer. So I think hoarding the cards that are likely to generate good answers, and especially in control versus control, you need to force your opponent to get the least amount of value for each of their answers. So I mean, in these decks, you have basically six wraths, right? Six things that clear the board because your Dark One's Fury does nothing, and that means that ideally you want to be holding on to all of your cards that holding back as much as possible. Like put enough on the board that you're pushing damage through, and since the game's going to go long, if you have a slight advantage, then your opponent can't they either need to make a bigger advantage than you, or they need to remove your advantage. So you just want to make the smallest advantage possible. Like, if I had a Plentiful Dead at the beginning of the game, I would just, Plentiful Dead draw 2 and just try and beat in with that zombie token and pass a bunch. Because we saw at the beginning of the game how much passing there was, how much just, I'm not going to do anything because I want to be the reactor. And I mean, in this situation, it's the same thing. Connor is very likely going to need to clear this board. I mean, he could, there's the zombie apocalypse. And, I mean, ideally, James would not even have the Reaper in play there. He would force Connor to zombie apocalypse into just the Rift Summoner, because you can't deal with the Rift Summoner any other way.
There's a detail I want to point out here. Connor has 5 cards, 1 revealed. James is slowly losing the cards in hand war. One of the things you see in a control and control match, whether it's in other games like Magic or in Epic, typically it comes down to most cards, least cards, right? It's a grindy attrition game. So James is sacrificing cards in hand to continue to gift over and over and over again, and that's his advantage in the health totals.
Right.
But he's currently down in cards in hand, and if Connor sweeps here again, he'll be in a strong position. He'll be ahead on the board, probably, and ahead in the hand, definitely.
Right. And the Scar's Gift is a big deal because, in these attrition matches, it helps you get ahead slowly if nothing's happening on the board. So what that means is your plan can vary depending on whether or not you have that. Like, in my opinion, James didn't really need to play the Rift Summoner there. I think playing the Rift Summoner there was probably a mistake. I mean, I don't know what's in his hand, but or at least it's not the route I would take, because he's going to win the long game. He has a graveyard.
So would you be concerned about an unintentional draw? Is that part of the reason why he might be trying to push here, because he sees a window? Because, they only get so long to play all 3 games, and generally speaking, when you're in a mirror, they go 3. Not always, but, because they spent so much time just durdling through the first several turns, is that maybe a concern? That's, James is feeling the clock already and wants to make sure he has enough time to get a win?
Yeah, I mean, it could also just be, just getting a feel for how his opponent is, sitting, playing. Do they seem nervous? Do they seem like they don't actually have a way out of this?
Mm-hmm.
And then, if so, should I just push the wound more and really, put the pressure on? So that, for example, was, in my opinion, a really good edge play, because what happened was James attacked with the demon,
right,
and then Connor blocked with a zombie, and then before damage happened, he killed his own zombie to make 2 demons. So he got to block the demon.
Right, he picked up 4 health that way.
Yeah. And here we have a lot of swinging back and forth, but James should have a good idea that Connor probably doesn't have a good read, that Connor doesn't have a good way to answer his board right now, because instead of
sweeping,
clearing the board and pushing, he is playing Rift Summoner and trying to fight some more. I mean, you could also make the argument that Connor did that because he knows that with the Gudgeon out, his opponent isn't going to be able to Scar's Gift him. So he wants to try and
Keep the clock going.
Keep the clock going, but also eat the graveyard with the Guilt Demon and gain some health off of, not taking future Scar's Gift damage.
For those of you just joining us, and I see you in the Twitch comments, thank you. You're watching continuing coverage of the Epic Card Game World Championship 2017. We're in round 5 of 6 today. The top 8 will advance to tomorrow's playoff rounds, where someone's going to go home with $15,000 and be crowned our second Epic World Champion. And everybody that's here today has qualified, not only for today's event, but also for the Epic Digital 50K event that's going to take place in, it's currently tentatively for June, and that'll be made definite pretty soon. That 50K event is open to players through the Epic Digital app. Qualifiers for that are expected to happen in the not too distant future. We're waiting until the app is in a slightly better state before we start running paid tournaments in it. But those tournaments will begin during the alpha and beta cycle. And if you'd like to be a part of that, we'd love to have you. And you can find out more at epiccardgame.com, and you can purchase it through White Wizard Games, through whitewizardgames.com. Click on the store link. I think that's my once every half hour required plug. The app is great. I mean, I've learned so much watching people stream it and playing against people better than me. And I think I'm watching 2 people better than me right now with grinding through this. This is not my style of deck. I love watching it, but I could never play it. Talk to me for a minute about the mentality you need to have to play the style of grindy, edge-finding, attrition type of deck, because we've never really seen this in Epic before. When we had Chamberlain Kark last year, it wasn't grindy in the same way that this was. It was grindy in that it found many different ways to say no to your opponent, and then, I have Kark, I'm winning. And this is, I need to play turns ahead to find an edge to hit you for 2, and do that several times to eventually win.
Right.
Talk a little bit, if you could, about the type of people that are likely to succeed with that style of deck, because maybe they can find this deck as a new home for them.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I know a lot of people, myself included, that enjoy playing non-linear strategies. So with decks like this, where you have a lot of cards that are, resource generating, then it's kind of like a puzzle. You're trying to figure out what pieces generate the most value for you right now, and how you're going to fit all those things in your hand together. You don't have to use everything, but usually you will. And the question is, how much am I willing to give up? When is this going to be best? Like, for example, Connor has a Xanos in his hand right now, and he's thinking about playing it because it gives him a huge amount of things.
Yeah, he's getting 6 health off of this. He's draining his opponent for 6.
And then he's making 2 demon tokens, because otherwise he wouldn't get to make the 2 demon tokens.
Right.
Personally, I think that even he probably should have played well, see, what he's doing right here is he's not playing the Plentiful Dead, because he thinks that if my opponent doesn't clear here, then I probably win.
Right.
Which means that there's no real reason to invest in extra health.
Yeah. And every point in a mirror match like this is so critical. And he's going to chew one of those zombies and make 2 more demons. So that's, I don't know, something like 35 offense on the table, if my math is right. 30, that's 10, 18. Yeah,
right.
It's plenty.
Yeah. I mean, if he doesn't have a good answer, then, Connor can follow up the following turn. He has Demonic Uprising in his hand.
Demonic Uprising is one of those cards that I feel has been looking for a home. and maybe in the post-banning era, it has found that home.
Right. And it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, probably the two biggest things that hurt Demonic Uprising were Ceasefire and Blind Faith, because Ceasefire made it so you couldn't attack with more than one, and Blind Faith for 0, you couldn't attack with any more because they would all lose their blitz.
Right.
And you can get blown out. You know, you can spend your gold and then get blown out by a 0-cost card.
Pardon me.
And so Demonic Rising is really nice because you don't even need to build an entire strategy around it. If you're already generating a lot of bodies, and there are situations where you'll have a ton of bodies in play occasionally, then you might have situations where your opponent spends their gold first, or even if they don't, and you've just had like big fights between both of your creatures, you can follow it up with a Demonic Uprising and then come out ahead.
Right.
Especially if they've done a lot of chumping against your bigger things, then Demonic Uprising can just win the game.
So what is James looking for here?
He definitely wants to clear or generate in a very similar amount of creatures. So probably an ideal scenario for him would be like Angel of Death.
Yeah, he's attacked with his Guilt Demon before any form of sweep. Although if there's a sweep, then Guilt Demon would be broken, of course. But obviously, if he had ways to sweep his opponent's side of the board, you know, you'd like to put Xanos on the bottom of your opponent's deck, or more likely Rift Summoner on the bottom of your opponent's deck. Well, maybe Xanos, actually. But
You definitely hit a champion because your zombie apocalypses are in both of your decks.
right. And maybe that's the advantage he's looking for here. I mean, a zombie apocalypse. Well, it's tough to say. I can't see the rest of James's deck.
If James plays Zombie Apocalypse, then Connor plays Demonic Uprising.
Oh, and it's exposed too, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that one's less.
Okay, so that route is not available to James.
Yeah, I mean, especially also since James has had less of a discard pile because he's been eating up his plays with Scar's Gift. Looks like he's going to double Scar's Gift here. Yeah, I mean, you can really hold in there with Scar's Gift for a long time. And if Scar's Gift is the only way that you're gaining health, then between two players, then eventually it'll go down because you'll be hitting each other. And so, you know, you'll have some sum of both your health totals, and that won't ever change. But it does look like he's going to try and fight the... is he making a demon token? Oh, he's banishing all of his cards, yeah.
Right.
So he is...
Because he gifted twice.
He's making another demon token. So he's going to be fighting on the board. It looks like his strategy to play around the Demonic Rising might just be make also a lot of tokens.
Yeah, make 7 of them. He's got the full boat of red cards in his hand.
Yeah, and honestly, that knocks down Connor a lot because he's going to be taking 4 off of the Scar's Gifts, plus another 7.
Yeah, I don't know if the health total's been updated for either, but if I'm right, he's down to 11 or 9. Yep, there it is,
Yeah.
9.
And
So now you're in a very, very precarious state because
you've got the instantaneous deal 4.
right. Well,
again.
he's got 4 in demand. Also, they're both running a race. James can bounce his own Xanos back to his hand and turn that into lethal.
No, it's a 3rd Scar's Gift. So he's got 6.
Wow,
So
must be nice.
let me think. He could have done an extra what? 4. He could do.
No, he couldn't have done any
He
extra.
could have brought him to 1 if he also played Scar's Will of Skara. And
Oh, right. If he led with that,
if
yeah.
he led with Will of Skara and
He-
then the other Scar's Gift.
He
Then,
didn't have enough cards in his discard pile to recall all 3 of those.
Right. Well, he could. Yeah, he wouldn't be able to, but he would have. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess not. But it's not looking good for Connor.
Correct. And don't get me wrong, Scar's Will would be a choice card right now. There's Plentiful Dead, just to make a dude.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much Connor's only way out here is going to be
Connor has to
some
win.
demonic rising. He
Yeah,
has to
win this turn.
For some crazy amount, and that's going to be tough because you have how many zombies James has.
Right. One of the things I find in these evil on evil matches like this, it's kind of something like a fencing match where you reach forward with your sword, not trying to hit, but trying to elicit the response. And then you respond to the response, and they respond to the response, and you do a little dance like that, and hopefully at the end of it, because you're controlling the tempo, you score the point. And James has been setting the tempo that this whole game has been danced on. He led with Scar's Gift at the very beginning, and he was chipping and chipping and chipping, and Connor fought back, but now we're just about at Endgame one way or the other, and James begins that final stage up by a mountain of health.
Yeah, honestly, if I am Connor, I think what I'm looking for is probably to get another gudgeon out, to just find my third gudgeon. I think that's pretty much his only out. He has to get another gudgeon out, and then he has to remove all of the zombies.
Yeah, he can wave on his opponent's turn to basically time to buy himself a free turn, but it's not. There are very few good answers.
Yeah, I think his route to victory looks something like gudgeon, double block some demon tokens, eat a zombie into 2 demons, wither the remaining zombies, and hope that your opponent can't kill your gudgeon forever.
It's really unusual and epic to see a board with 19 champions.
Yeah.
You rarely even see this in limited.
You're just on one side, especially. I mean, James has, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15?
Oh, I miscounted. It's even worse than I thought.
One less zombie, so 14. Just 14 champions on his side.
Well, there's Wither, and that's going to take out all of the zombies.
Everybody's zombies.
Oh, I think he's undoing the Wither play.
Yeah.
Because he
realized.
thought, oh, right, this is going to kill all my zombies too. So one of the things that makes Epic different than other games is that we're, a little friendlier than many other, in that if you make a play, because there is no response window or countering or anything, if you make a play and then it does something that is very not what you wanted to have happen, if no information has been revealed, then you literally get to take it back. If nobody's drawn a card or anything like that, if it's possible to take it back without breaking the game, you can. And it comes with the cost of your opponent now knowing that the card is in your hand, but worth it. That Heinous Feast has got him a little bit more health, but only a little.
Yeah, that's a very small little. So now Connor also has a Scar's Gift. So they might be fighting over it for a while. If Connor can land a gudgeon and then utilize his gift, I think that's how he has to fight his way out. One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, Demonic Uprising is not a good idea right now.
Right.
Even if he clears off all of the zombies and makes 2 demons off of one of the zombies.
So then what do you do?
Well, I mean, you have to play your gudgeon, and then you have to fight on their turn. You have to make group locks on the demon token with your zombies. If they attack with their zombies first...
Right, you trade down...
Yeah, if they attack with their zombies first, you just block with big things, and then you make...
You put your zombies in front of their...
you can put your zombies in front of their demons.
And then turn into a Wither later, or you can Wither... the Wither is obviously not ideal in a mirror, but it is one of the ways he can punch back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but he has to play. I mean, I guess James doesn't have anything to discard pile right now, so he can hold on to the Gudgeon and drop something else instead. Maybe I would Reaper on the Rift Summoner.
Sure.
I think that's probably the route you want to go. Because that gives you another threat, and then you have a big body to block other stuff.
I think Reaper is one of those very underrated cards.
Yeah, I mean, the issue that Connor has to keep in the back of his head is his opponent has 3 Scar's Gifts in hand.
Right.
So that means if he doesn't play Gudgeon right now, he's effectively at 4. And then, at the very least, or 2 even, right? Because his opponent can go...
Right, play all 3, recall 1, banishing the other 2.
Right.
Which you wouldn't want to do, ideally, but...
I'm pretty sure he actually can't play Reaper and Pass because James Moreland will go Scar's Gift, 3 Will of Scar, 3 gifts, then another event, banishing both events. Or I guess, yeah, you're right. That still wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, he's still short.
Well, if he breaks, he can't Reaper one of his opponent's champions because then he'll have enough in the discard pile.
Yeah, fascinating. Like, it's such a weird axis to fight on too, but he has to. He can't have every card in Moreland's discard pile puts him that much closer to giving a gift again.
Yeah, he could potentially Reaper like a Rift Summoner and then eat it with the Guild Demon, but then James just plays an evil event or any kind of event, and then he's back up to potentially just winning right away.
If your head hurts looking at this board, you are not alone.
Keep in mind that neither player has spent their gold yet, and Connor still has a Demonic Uprising. And also, James still has the 3 Scar's Gifts in hand.
In the background, we have the other match is completely over. So we had Mike Segrist versus Tom Dixon in the continuation of the Pluck You deck that we saw in the last round. Mike Segrist took it 2-1. All of that match is over while this one game has yet to conclude.
Yep. Well, this game might just decide it. I mean, if this game happens, then the loser has to close out a game before the game ends the time if they want to.
So let's reset the game state for the people that are just joining us, and I'm seeing that more and more people are checking in, and that's great to see. Once again, I'm Nathan Davis. Joining me is CJ Moynihan, the lead developer on Epic Pantheon. And right now, we are having an attrition battle. There's at the very top of the screen, right underneath that 10, is half of a Guilt Demon, and that Guilt Demon just got in for 3 damage in the air, putting James down to 25. Connor has been on the back foot for roughly the last 20 minutes, and James has 3 Scar's Gift in his hand. And that card repeatedly can deal 2 damage and heal 2 damage. And that card is what this matchup is being is what it's all about. It has set the tempo, and James has 3 of them in his hand. So Connor is at a virtual 4, and he knows it. He knows that he's very close to dead, and so they were already playing very tight games of Epic, and now it's even tightened up that much more because the game is on the proverbial knife's edge.
And now we're going to see a Demonic Rising, and not just any Demonic Rising.
This is the largest Demonic Rising in organized play history. This is crazy.
I don't even think I've seen a Demonic Rising this large.
Organized. So break all champions, then put a demon into play for each broken champion, basically. All the demons gain blitz, So Connor has 2, 3. Oh, he has a couple of saucy demons in there too. The newer. So
I mean, they probably ran out of the other.
Yeah, they ran out of the other ones. So let's count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 demons for Connor. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 5, 6, 7, yeah, 12 for James. So even if Connor goes all in,
he'll get in.
He's only going to get in for 4.
And James hasn't spent his gold yet.
Right.
So I don't know about these odds.
We've got the battalion formation ready to go.
Yes. It's a good way to organize it.
Here comes a demon. All right, so he's going to block with 10 demons. Nope, I guess not.
Oh, no, yeah. No demon file.
Oh, I have no idea what's happening.
Oh,
They just hit fast forward.
All right, I'm going to block everything with those.
Yeah,
Okay.
so again, these two guys are friends, and they know the decks pretty well at this point, and so I believe they just gentleman agreement. I attack one at a time, you block one at a time. They all die okay, and James said terms accepted.
Yeah, I mean, you really, when you're worrying about time, you really don't want to sit there and say, I attack with my demon token.
Right.
I block with my demon token.
Yeah, I'm sure they're both feeling it, right?
That.
So we're a half hour in now, nearly.
Yeah, and honestly, this game is very, very close, very soon to finish.
Easy
It's
for you to
just
say.
Well, honestly, given anything could happen, right?
Right.
But I think that
I think I just figured out what Connor's trying to do. There's a chance that Connor's not actually trying to win. I'm not saying that he's trying to cheat or throw the game. I'm saying I think that he has seen the board state and seen how long the match has gone, and he might be trying to just get to a draw. I mean, if you think about it, right? So he's unlikely. There's unlikely to be a winner in game 2. It's certainly possible, but neither of these decks can have an explosive opening unless they go turn one Xanos
but on the draw.
The odds of that being unanswered, very small, right? It's certainly possible.
Well, off turn, the only answer would be
Drain Essence by Connor is going to put him back into a healthy state. So the draw odds have just gone up dramatically.
Wow.
Wait a minute. Did he do it twice?
No. I think that
We've got a judge right there. So
he gained 13 because he gained. He did Scar's Affection.
Oh, he did Scar's Gift twice, and then Drain Essence.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my goodness! And so it flips all the way back around.
Yeah. All right.
So there's a real chance that
I mean, Connor could still win.
Could. I could. I mean, we're at a state right now where Connor has 2 Scar's Gift, James has 3 Scar's Gift.
The
And
number of Scar's Gifts you have doesn't really matter unless you can kill your opponent with the second or third one.
correct.
So, effectively,
Yeah, because their discard piles are empty.
I can't see Connor's discard pile, but I think they're both empty.
They are, I believe.
Maybe Connor.
Maybe we could ask
Connor
if
has-
there's the judge coverage does if we can get info about whether or not Connor has a discard pile right now.
Yeah.
But I believe that there's nothing, and James is going to start building up.
Yeah, I mean, really, Connor would need to play a Gaijin,
Right.
and also.
So I think we've seen 2 Gudgeons from him, right? And there are 2 in the list. So he's got to loop back around to get it.
I mean, that's another thing that you could do in this edge play is, in this matchup, is like a format like this is one of the most likely to have you actually draw back up the cards that you were looking at before. So this is like one of the more likely. So he does actually have a pretty big discard pile. This is one of the formats that this is one of the matchups where you are much more likely to actually draw through your entire deck.
Right.
Especially since, you're banishing your own stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're always activating Scar's Gift. And something that is going to happen a lot, assuming that players don't plan around it naturally, is that they're going to have big clumps of events followed by big clumps of champions. Because when they banish cards from their own discard pile, they don't want to banish their champions. And then when their entire discard pile gets banished, all of the champions in there will get banished.
It's a really good point.
So that means that even if, they're not doing the super technical play of keeping track of everything that's happening, it's still somewhat relevant to say, oh, I just hit my events, and I'm going to have events for like the next 10 cards because I Scar's Gifted 10 times. Or, oh, I'm going to be, this is just a stack of champions or something like that. And it doesn't matter in this deck, but this is also really relevant if you're playing something like Misguide Heralds, because you always want to be careful if you're creating blanks for yourself.
Right.
Misguide Heralds.
So, I want to continue to talk about this match as it develops, but I want to also broaden the conversation a little bit because we're seeing them loop through very similar play patterns. So let's suppose that this deck, whether or not it's literally exactly this deck, let's suppose that this deck becomes one of the pillars of the new meta, and you wanted to attack it.
Mm-hmm.
How would you go about doing that? What would you advise, both strategically and tactically, for players if they wanted to take this deck out? What would they do, both building and what would they do when playing?
Right. So basically, if I was going to build a deck to beat this deck, then there are a couple of key parts about the deck. The biggest one is that it's a slow deck. So basically, it's not designed to win quickly. I mean, it will put a lot of things in play and then attack with them, but it's going to attack them with lots of small things.
Right.
So the type of cards that are going to be the type of strategies that are going to be against this are either strategies that are going to end the game very quickly. And I don't mean like, we'll dirtle around and whack you with Kong a couple times. Like more like, shooting like grating lightning worms at your face kind of quickly. Or they are effective at actually dealing with the ground champions and make it difficult for the opponent to deal with their stuff. So, for example, I'm sure this deck, just looking at it, would have a hard time with, say, untargetable champions like Sea Titan. Like, basically the only way, plus other small things. The main answers that this deck has to a card like Sea Titan would be Wheel of Skara is a big one, and also board wipes. So that means actually planning around the whole Wheel of Skara thing by not just having, big champions, but also little things that can die to it. Like,
right.
A token made off of a Brave Squire, or a token made off of a Wolfspite, or Plentiful Dead, or something like that.
Right, having something around.
Yeah. That can die, or a Warrior Golem, And also beating another deck, having, like, basically, if I was going to fight this deck, I would generally just choose something that wasn't a mid-range strategy, because I feel like the what this deck is going to be best
It's positioned very well against the mid-range meta,
right,
that a lot of people are expecting to be here today.
Right. So basically, I would just build something that isn't mid-range, because if I'm making value plays, and I'm trying to play like my Dracos and Foresters, and my Kongs, and my Triceratopses and things like that, then and Brachiosauruses, what's going to happen is, your individual cards are going to be answered really efficiently by things like Medusa and Reaper and what have you. But then you won't be able to actually win on the ground because, of just the huge amount of tokens that can get generated by things like Dirge of Skara and the Xanos and Rift Summoner and those type of cards. So, yeah, and honestly, I feel like that's the way to go. You could also try and force them to clear their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
by going back to the olden days and tapping, like expending their champions with things like Ice Drake,
Right.
and then just forcing them, saying like, okay, I have some, airborne champions or whatever, or I have some evasive champions that you actually have to. I have a couple of champions in play. You have to do something about them.
Right. So you'd see. In that style of deck, you wouldn't just see Ice Drake. You'd see things like Veldon or
Crystal
Frost.
Golem.
Yeah, Crystal Golem. Even.
It's great
Yeah.
in this deck. Against this deck. What do you do against a Crystal Golem? What do you do against even a Steel Titan, right?
Right.
Like, okay, Steel Titan's out, so that means I have to Angel of Death, or.
Although
Steel
to be
Star.
fair, Steel Titan and Steel.
Steel Titan's the 13/9.
Right,
with
the new one.
unblockable. Yeah, the new one.
Yeah. No, that's Steel Golem. Steel
Steel Golem's
Titan.
the old
No,
one,
you're
Steel
right.
Titan.
Yep. Thank you, producers, for getting that on the screen. So Steel Titan is part of the new cycle of cards that have semi-unblockable, and it nothing in this deck can play with it, and they have no pump.
Right.
So, and it's untargetable. In fact, I think Steel Titan is the card. And in fact, this deck has a little bit of Sage in it. If you wanted to just tap to shove some Mirror Breakers in here, you could drop a Wave or an Ancient Chant or both and put in a couple of Steel Titans as a way to, because you see the Gudgeon, the Gudgeon is also a Mirror Breaker because it's sitting there trying to, it's unblockable. One of the ways to sneak by, that's a Drain Essence. That's one of the promo Drain Essences, putting James to 30. So, the likelihood of a draw in this game is much higher, and in fact, time has just been called in the round. The on-stream players are not on the same clock, so I don't know how much time is left in the round for them, but it's running out.
Yeah. So one thing that I would say is definitely, Mirror Breakers. So let's take a look at the deck that we just saw a couple last round.
Let me interrupt for just 1 second. I've just been informed that there are roughly 4 minutes left in the round, and it's not looking good for either player to eke a win out here. But I just wanted to get that out for the people watching at home. Go ahead, CJ.
Right. So what I was saying was we saw a deck earlier. Tom was playing with the Silver Ring Lancer. For
Right.
example.
Yeah, the Pluck You deck.
Yeah, you could really push that angle and say, Silver Ring Lancer is a perfect example of a card that, can really punish.
Right. Yeah, just run right by all the tokens.
An evil deck for being greedy because, it hits for 10. There's nothing in the deck that can block it, and.
Although it is going to die to Medusa and to Drain Essence. It's definitely Drain Essence bait. Although, again, if you're backing that up with pre-combat prevention with things like Force Lance or the old standby Brave Squire, it's been good since 2015.
Yeah, even just the standard buffs, even just like a Go Wilds or a Rage or a Lash or something makes it not get hit by Drain Essence.
Yeah, it's true.
And, aside from that, there aren't a whole lot of off-turn answers in this deck, and they're all breaking. And that's the thing. I guess that's why they have put in things like Wave and Erase and Hasty Retreat are to deal with those type of answers. So it depends on, what this deck tunes for. Is if it's playing Erases and Waves and Hasty Retreats, that's going to make them better versus the super aggressive decks, while playing the slower cards will make them better against the other styles, the other style of deck that that fights against, like evil token spread wide. mean, even on my opinion, Dark One's Fury is very much a tech choice. Like, it's a really good option if you want if you're expecting to see a lot of champions that aren't evil, but it's it's horrible in the mirror match.
Right. Yeah, it's just a draw two, and just a draw two is not good enough in constructed. It's the primary difference between limited and constructed when you're evaluating cards is that draw two, whatever else the card says, it'll find a home, and you'll never be too sad with it. But Dark One's Fury, again, I think is a great metagame call. It's just catching him here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to tune for the mirror, for example,
then you'd take it out. And
you play, like, I don't know, like a Necrovirus or something.
Sure.
Or like a Drinker of Blood would be a good call.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that neither of them had Drinker, especially because they have so many tokens that are being generated with Xanos and Wither. But I think Drinker of Blood would be a fine addition to this deck.
Yeah, it's a splash. Like, maybe, I mean, you don't really want to see Drinker of Blood all the time.
No, you want one of. If you're in this sort of match where you're looping your whole deck, especially if they don't see it coming. Of course, now that we've just said it on the stream, they might see it coming.
But even if you expect that your opponent might have Drinker Blood in their deck,
then you can't sit here and play around it
conservatively,
right?
Or you have to play more aggressively with your attacks because, and that's actually a benefit for you because if I have Drinker Blood in my deck, or my opponent thinks that I do, then they're going to play differently. They're either going to make less tokens, or whenever they have the opportunity to, trade in those tokens, they're going to. And that means, slightly worse plays in general for a much better play in a very specific scenario.
So I can't imagine they have much time left in there. So when time runs out, the player whose turn it is finishes their turn, and then there's one extra turn for each player after that. And the if there isn't a winner, health totals do not matter. So even though James is in the lead, he will not win the game if time runs out. Okay, so I've just been informed that time has been called in the coverage game. So Connor is finishing quote-unquote turn 0, and then James will get a turn. Connor will end the match on his turn, and then in all likelihood, both of them will get one victory point or one tournament point and carry on into the next round, and both of them are in probably win and in situations. I mean, while this might be kind of grindy to watch, I do want to give Connor a world of credit because he was 1 foot in the grave. I mean, he found a line with the board. There were 25 cards on the board. He found a line in to survive, if indeed he has survived. But he's playing Steed of Zaltessa. That implies he's attacking. I have no idea what's going on now. He can't. Can he deal 35 in this turn and next? Maybe. I don't know. He played Steed. That loyalty ability is going to deal 2. That also means that James can't, or deal 5. Sorry. It also means that James can't gain health this turn. So those gifts are incrementally less useful. I don't think that's going to matter.
Yeah.
I don't understand, but that's why I'm not there. I'm here.
I mean, you never know. Maybe he's going to surprise attack out another Steed of Zaltessa.
Okay. So then that goes to 20, and then you still got 20 more to go on your swing back.
Yeah, that would be like, that would be what, 16, 26 if they both swing, or
if they both
20,
hit.
20, 22.
Yeah, 22.
And then you need to do another.
So I believe the health total right now is 13 for Connor and 24 for James Moreland, if my understanding is correct. But we'll find that out in a moment. We are, once again, we are in extra time. Connor's finishing his turn, and then James will get a final turn, and then Connor will take the final turn of the match. And the scores have been updated. If neither player has been reduced to 0, this match will end in a draw. Just to catch people up on the rest of the day's streaming schedule, we've got round 6 coming up next, and then hopefully we might get a couple of interviews in with some people that have made top 8, and maybe even a deck tech to talk about some of the interesting things we've seen today. So definitely stay tuned, and if you have any questions in the in the Twitch chat, please feel free to give us a shout.
I mean, it does look like James is pretty close. He can, Hasty Retreat, Apocalypse to draw 2, and then hit with one of the Scar's infections down to 11, and then 3 brings him down to 5, play an evil card. That would go down to 3.
So is all of this happening on Connor's turn?
Yes. Yeah, he's still being attacked by the Steed of Zaltesa, I believe.
No, he's taking the damage from the Steed. Because he was at 35 and he's taken 11.
I think he was just playing the Hasty Retreat to put it in the discard pile.
Sure. Which you can do
on the Steed.
Right, which you can do in Epic. You are allowed to play cards that don't have targets.
Because he doesn't actually care about the damage from the Steed, but he doesn't want Connor to draw another gift.
Right.
So he's not hasty retreating the Steed.
All right, so it appears that he has gifted Connor twice, and that has put him down to 9. And now we're back into Connor's, but James cannot gain health, and I think they're probably adjusting that. Yeah, James is at 24. He cannot gain health because Steed of Zaltesa has damaged James, and that means James can't gain health for the rest of the turn. So the score is 9 plays 24.
Yeah.
9 to 22?
Yeah,
Connor played a gift. Sure. Yeah. So it's 11 to 22.
At the end of his turn, he played it.
Oh, and it goes back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, let's see. 1. Yeah, he needs exactly Steed and for it not to be blocked.
Doesn't matter if it's blocked, right? Play Steed, deal 5 puts him to 6, and then...
Play.
So no, play any. No, it's not good enough.
He needs to play 2 0-cost cards.
He plays 2 0-cost cards.
Yeah.
That's such a beating. He needs Steed and it needs to get there. And now you almost wish you had Hasty Retreat so you could bounce back. All right, so there is. Oh, we're on the play. There's gift, recalling.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you have
so
to. So
Connor's at 9. So Connor's at 4. And does James Moreland get there? Because even if Connor recalls the gift, it's not going to be enough. Oh, yep.
So actually, it's still going to have Connor's turn. So potentially, James could still win.
Right. By playing
the gift twice on Connor's turn. Because he's one gift.
Oh, because he's got a card in his discard pile now, too. Yep. All right, so Connor is in a dangerous place. It would be amazing if James could pull out a win from this because Connor has been hanging on. And unless I misunderstand the end of round procedure, this is the final turn of the game.
Right. So Connor wants to, let's see, right now he's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So right now he actually brings James down to 8. Mm-hmm. Which means that he could win with Demonic Rising.
Oh my god, if we play an hour of Epic in one of the most grindy matches we've seen on stream in a long time, and they have found both of them a path to win, however, both of them have an opportunity to stop that path. This is fascinating. And let's see, so he's playing Wither for nothing. Well, he can't play Wither for nothing. If he has a target at all, he definitely has to target something. So I'm guessing he probably withered
I guess he's not planning on winning.
No, he put so Medusa's in his discard pile, so he definitely targeted something. I don't know what.
Right. So I'm just saying, I don't think he would. Oh, I see. No, he needs to either play the Gudgeon or play Gift this turn.
So Gudgeon almost certainly ensures a draw.
Right. James. Well, no. James has Drain Essence. Then. Because he can't play it twice.
Right.
Right. And the other two are at the bottom. So.
Oh, and now it's even one further card back.
The only way he does it is if James has Wither in his hand to remove the Gudgeon.
Has Drain Essence on the Gudgeon.
All right. So now he needs. Yeah, but he doesn't have another way to deal damage for 0. Oh no,
he has one gift.
Flashfire. He has Flashfire in his deck as well. He could win with Flashfire.
Well, he would have already done it, right?
Flashfire, yeah. He probably, I don't know what he played, but he probably if he had a draw 2 in his hand, I think the draw 2 would have been the way to go.
So there's Guilt Demon on the top of the screen on Connor's side, and he could have attacked right then and cleared that
Drain Essence
out of the discard pile, although that's probably not going to matter now.
He cleared the Steed of Zaltesa.
Oh, okay.
When he played it.
So this looks like an attacking... but he can't do 33, so he's down to 27.
Yeah.
Maybe I have misunderstood the end of round procedure, but
Do they get?
I thought it was one turn each. We'll find out in a second. I'm really sorry that I don't have it. So during the attack, if James could have
Right, and he had to put the
defeated
Drain
him.
Essence on the Gudgeon during the swing so
Right.
that he could gain the health before the Steed of Zaltesa hits him.
Oh, and that does something else too. That closes the window because there are no attackers left. Oh no, that's not true. I take that back. That change didn't happen.
He wasn't attacking with the Gudgeon.
No. Oh no. I'm sorry. You're right.
And it does close the window.
It closes the window after he plays all of his cards, right? Like once he passes after playing Drain Essence, but if you play Drain
Right.
Essence on other cards.
Yeah, you can play Drain Essence and then other cards.
James Moreland is getting a turn, which means I'm bad at counting.
Yeah,
so
maybe they each get 2. Well, if James Moreland...
Oh, no. I think I know what it is now. It's active player finishes and then 3 additional turns total.
Okay,
So this is now James's.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's to disadvantage stalling to have control when time runs out.
Okay, I'm pretty sure James' correct play is to draw 2 to dig for Flashfire, and that wins him the game. I'm pretty sure James hasn't played Flashfire this game.
Right.
Which means it's probably in
There's the Gudgeon. Did he just... No. Oh, I was excited. No, this is going to be the hand. That is the thumbing of someone who's disappointed. We've got 29 people in the main hall waiting for this game to end after a lightning-fast round 4, which was the first of the constructed rounds. But we have found the grindy match. And I think they're...
disappointed.
Are they talking through concessions, or are they talking through draws, or what? I'm not quite sure. But they are definitely talking through, so I think this one is going to wrap up as a draw.
Right.
James is so not thrilled. And here's the bad news for that. That means, like, if this ends in a draw, neither one of them can draw into the top 8.
Right. They have to win their
They'd have to win the next match, no matter what.
Right. Well, if James... Right, because that would be 4-0 and 2, and that would be 4-1 and 1. Right. So they'll just both be Dream Crushers. Like they'll both be in matches where one person gets kicked from the top 8.
Right. Although they're not dream crushing because, I mean, they're win and ends, right? If they're 302, if James Moreland is 302 and wins, he's 402.
Right. Well, I mean, like one person in the last match. won't get into the top 8
Right. Yep.
for both of them if they draw here.
Just let the judge know that they've got 30 people in the other room waiting on this match to wrap up, and they should finish their conversation about this, please. Because they can't do this.
I think they're talking about where dinner's going to be and where that's going to go. So while they sort out...
He's the dark duck.
Huh?
They have, according to their sheet they filled out, Connor's nickname is Dark Duck because he loves Dark Leader so much.
Huh. Never mind. So it looks like they have come to a conclusion, and it looks like neither of them are happy, which means that they probably drew. And we'll find out for that for sure in a moment, and we'll keep a lookout to see how that's going. Welcome back to the coverage desk. I'm Nathan Davis along with CJ Moynihan, and it has been a very, very long round 5, but we're glad that you have stayed with us. Oh, interesting. So I've just been informed that Connor, who was trailing in the match, conceded to James. So that's going to put Connor at 3-2 and almost certainly out of the running. And it's going to put James at 4-0-1, almost certainly into the top 8 if he is allowed to ID in. So I'm not sure if they're on an actual team. I know that they're friendly and have built this deck together, so it'll be interesting later in the day to figure out exactly how that process all went in. I've been in a couple of those conversations. They're not super fun,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I think we're gonna cut to a break. It's been a very, very long round 5. I'm gonna step out and make way for other people. And I want to say thanks for letting me share a bit of the stream time. We're gonna go to a replay now, and we will be back for the 6th and final round of Constructed with some win and ins for the top 8 at Epic Worlds 2017. We'll see you in a little bit.
Man, I hope there's a rubber ducky emo because that's got to be just